How do the Tennessee Titans get it done without Derrick Henry? That and more today on the Run the Sims podcast. I'm your host, Adam Wilde. We have the Tennessee Titans heading to take on the LA Rams. The Rams are -7 at home with a 52.5 point over under. Ryan Tannehill is going to have to be phenomenal in this game to even keep things competitive. So we'll start with injury, of course. Derrick Henry, optimism that maybe he returns this season, but very unlikely. We also have AJ Brown, who's been on the injury report. He's kind of had the same injury trend for the past 3 games, and he's put up 120 yards average a game over that span. So I'm not concerned with him playing this week. He's missed practice right before the game, all 3 times, I believe. Julio Jones is completely off of the injury report for the first time in quite some time. So apparently fully healthy Julio Jones. And I like him as a play a lot. The Rams side of the ball, Matthew Stafford was limited in practice, but nothing of concern. Robert Woods, according to Adam Schefter, is expected to play. And that's going to do it for the injury. So let's go over to our optimal results. So we've got Cooper Kupp appearing in 40% of the flex spot and 21% captain. We've got ownership for this show, and Cooper Kupp is projected for 53%. I think that's actually a little low. The only reason it's 53% is because he's got an egregious 25% captain. I don't usually get to 25% captain with anybody unless it's like a low price play that just seems like a lock to me. So that's going to be really high. He's kind of in like the Devontae Adams fade territory where it's like he's just so owned that you kind of have to fade him. Not entirely, of course. And we'll talk about ways to play Cooper Kupp and still be unique, but you can't just lock him into every lineup. I don't think I won't be. Next, you have Ryan Tannehill at 48% flex, 11% captain at 60% total. His flex ownership's only 29% and his captain ownership's only 6%. I said it to start the show, so it's going to be the Ryan Tannehill show. I mean, Ryan Tannehill has only passed 300 yards one time this season, but he's going to have to set a new season high for yards if he's going to keep up with the Rams. And I mean, the Tennessee Titans defense is so miserable that the Titans could be down 2 touchdowns basically all game. So Ryan Tannehill is going to be a staple of basically all of my lineups, which goes really well with the next player. Daryl Henderson is appearing in 36% of flex, 13% captain for a total of 49%. This here is unique. So his flex ownership's only projected 14%, but his captain ownership's projected 15%. Usually when you have a player that's projected for 15% captain, their flex ownership is like 30 to 40. So if we're trusting this ownership, basically people are saying it's captain or bust for Daryl Henderson. And really what that says to me is people see that it's a 7.5 point favorite at home for the Rams. And so naturally they gravitate towards the running back, which is fine. Usually you'll want to leverage the field in a position like that by playing Henderson a captain. So you say, okay, well, this game sets up really well for Henderson and he's going to be really high owned. So I'm just going to play him a captain. And that gives me, 1.5 times bonus on everyone who rostered him in the flex. Well, in this case, he's equally owned and captain as he is in the flex. So in that case, you're going to want to play him in the flex and try to hit on your captain. So we'll have to talk about some other captain options here in just a moment, like AJ Brown. AJ Brown's appearing in 34.1% of flex spots, 12.9% at captain for 47% total. I was curious how this ownership was going to land because AJ Brown, like I said, 3 games over like 100, well, averaging 120 yards. And Jalen Ramsey's on the other side of the ball. Well, the thing about that is that Jalen Ramsey is not Ramsey Island like he was in the past. Raheem Morris is playing Jalen Ramsey in like a monster role where Ramsey's just wrecking games at the line of scrimmage, playing a lot of nickel. Ramsey's playing over 50% in the slot. So AJ Brown and Julio Jones, neither of them are getting anywhere near 50% in the slot. I don't think either of them are over 25% in the slot. So one way you can look at is that just Chester Rogers is just getting thrown out there to the Wolves, but Jalen Ramsey's not going to play Chester Rogers all game. So the Rams will get unique with Jalen Ramsey, but there's no way that Jalen Ramsey's just going to lock down AJ Brown or just going to lock down Julio Jones. They're going to do something unique with Jalen Ramsey. Either way, it's going to give opportunity for A.J. Brown and Julio to succeed at different portions of the game. But people still go with that narrative that Jalen Ramsey's going to lock someone up, especially the primary receiver for a team. So I was curious how this ownership was going to land, and A.J. Brown's ownership is looking like 29%. I will be playing a ridiculous amount of A.J. Brown if his ownership's actually 29%, which is what I'm going off of. So I'm probably going to be playing a ton of A.J. Brown. He's even appearing in 12.9% captain, and his captain ownership's looking like 8%. Next, we have Jeremy McNichols. Jeremy McNichols is only really a good play for leverage purposes. So he's appearing in 36.6% of the flex, 7.8% captain. As many of you know, Adrian Peterson has been signed to the Titans, and Jeremy McNichols' price is just way, way overcorrected at 7.8 thousand or 7.8K. So basically, you're looking at 17% ownership for McNichols and 2% ownership at captain for McNichols. I think he's too expensive for captain, but he's definitely worth a flex spot, especially in like Titans 4x1s, because he's right around the same price as like Robert Woods. He's around the same price as Julio Jones. So like he's definitely a way worse option than them. But there's still a scenario where Adrian Peterson is, not ready to play right away. So, and then of course, as you've seen, I love playing two running backs from the same team in builds. So if you wanted to do a Titans 4x1 with Peterson, McNichols, Tannehill, AJ Brown, and then two Rams, that's perfectly viable as well. So McNichols not really a great play in terms of price per dollar, but definitely a great leverage play because he's going to be low ownership and there are scenarios where he can succeed. Now we get to Matthew Stafford. He's appearing in 39.3% of the flex, 3.6% of the captain, but he's owned a whopping 63% in the flex and owned 13% at captain. So what that tells me is that everybody's going with the Rams onslaught, which makes sense. But if you go with the Rams onslaught, you're just going to be splitting with the rest of the community. So what I'm going to be focusing on when I build for this slate is going to be how many Titans can I get in viably and still stay close to optimal medium projection or at least somewhere around it because um, there's easy swaps in this game. I mean, could we get AJ Brown and Julio Jones to outscore Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp? Sure, absolutely. But you need someone on this slate to outscore Cooper Kupp, and then you're also going to need Ryan Tannehill to outscore Matthew Stafford, which should not be terribly difficult because Ryan Tannehill is going to have better game script than Matthew Stafford for conduciveness to succeed in the passing game. Now, of course, Matthew Stafford is playing against the 32nd ranked defense against the pass, at least somewhere down there. I think bottom 5 in the Tennessee Titans. So Matthew Stafford will have his way. It's just that he's also $3,000 more than Ryan Tannehill, and Daryl Henderson should factor in quite a bit on the ground. Next, we get to Adrian Peterson, another staple of my lineups. He's just way, way too cheap. He's actually in captain consideration. This is probably the first time this year someone around 3K has made it into my captain player pool. So he's appearing in 38% of the flex, 4.6 at captain. And his flex ownership is 36 and his captain ownership is 4. So dead on the money. Not a great play, not a terrible play. Just lock him in, make it I mean, even if he were more owned, I would still play Adrian Peterson and just make it a 5-man showdown slate because at 3K, he's probably going to get early down work and almost definitely going to get the goal line work right away. Robert Woods is looking like the best leverage of the slate. When I wrote up this game, I thought that Van Jefferson was going to be the best leverage of the slate, but it makes sense that Van Jefferson at 6,800 has so much more ownership than Robert Woods. So I'm totally fine pivoting to Robert Woods, especially since he has the Q tag. So maybe that scares people off him just a little bit more. But Robert Woods is appearing in 27.1% of lineups with 6.9% at captain. He's being owned at 24% with 9% captain ownership. So doesn't look great from that perspective, but the fact that Van Jefferson is appearing in 32% of the lineups, Cooper Kupp 53% of the lineups, it's just such easy leverage to play Robert Woods. Hope for for another big game from him. Julio Jones, 21.8% in the flex, 4% at captain, 19% flex ownership, 2% captain ownership. Julio Jones is one of my favorite captains on the slate. I mean, coming in completely healthy in a game that could not be better game script for passing for the Titans. The Titans may suffer some sort of identity crisis. They're just going to have to heave the ball. They might overcorrect for Derrick Henry being out. I mean, Derrick Henry was their MVP at least, probably not league MVP, but definitely the Titans MVP. And what are they going to look like without him? Well, they have to somehow keep up with the Rams. They could just abandon the run entirely. Julio Jones could get started right out the gate. Even even if Ramsey does revert back, like I said, they're not just going to throw Ramsey on Chester Rogers all game. I promise you that. So yes, Ramsey's been in the slot 50% of the time, but there's not a third receiver on the Titans worth Ramsey's time. So Ramsey may blitz more. That's an option. But Ramsey's also going to spend some time between Julio and AJ Brown. I'm not naive enough to believe that they're just going to say, well, Ramsey's in a different role this year, so we're just going to let him guard Chester Rogers. So if Ramsey does revert back to some sort of shadowing, which I don't believe it'll be shadowing, but maybe just more time spent outside, Julio Jones is not going to be the one that he's the one. It's going to be AJ Brown. So either way, Julio Jones is not going to see much Jalen Ramsey. Now you've got Tyler Higbee. He's a good leverage spot. He's 20% in the flex, 3% at captain. Um, Tyler Higbee is just a good option because he gives you a piece of the Rams offense without all the ownership that comes with your Cooper Kupp or your Van Jefferson. So Tyler Higbee is owned 31% of the time, 4% captain. So not too big of an advantage. You take a bit of a loss there, but Tyler Higbee's still a good option if you want to run your Rams on slots without Cooper Kupp. And the last thing we'll talk about is Van Jefferson, 17.9% in the flex, 3.9% at captain. He's being owned a whopping 32%, 6% in the captain. So he's getting owned a lot more than he's appearing. And he's just I thought that he was going to be in a nice spot because he was the third option in the Rams passing game, but it appears that the pricing discount is enough to bump his ownership up. Not really any ancillary pieces in this game. If you're going down to sub 4K, you're playing Adrian Peterson. Sony Michel is interesting because, like I said, 7.5 point favorites at home for the Rams, and Sony Michel is 2,800. So in large field tournaments, if you want to play Sony Michel without playing Adrian Peterson, I do not blame you whatsoever. I don't blame you for playing Daryl Henderson and Sony Michel without Adrian Peterson because Sony Michel is the same price as Adrian Peterson. So you can build Adrian Peterson lineups and just one for one swap them for Sony Michel. And that's not a terrible leverage play. We'll head over to projections, look at a couple custom lineups, and then get out of here. So Cooper Kupp is projected 24 points. That's 4 points higher than Matthew Stafford, which is why he's going to have to appear in so many lineups and still require you to get contrarian. Stafford with 20 points, Tannehill with 20 points. So just take the $3,000 discount and the what is that 30% ownership discount on Tannehill. Like, why are you playing Matthew Stafford on this slate? Yes, he can wreck the slate, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean that he was a good play. Like, how are you playing Matthew Stafford at double the ownership and 3,000 more with Ryan Tannehill, especially when you can bet on AJ Brown or Julio Jones at least outscoring one of Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods, and you've got a natural stack. Even if you want to go 4x2 with the Rams, fine, but you can still play Ryan Tannehill with AJ Brown or Ryan Tannehill with Julio Jones. Or if you want to get really weird, play Ryan Tannehill with Jeremy McNichols, who will be the primary receiving back. And now you've gained leverage in terms of ownership, and you're not losing anything in terms of median projection by playing Tannehill over Stafford. Next, you have AJ Brown at 18. You have Daryl Henderson at 18. Jeremy McNichols at 15. Robert Woods at 14. Julio Jones at 11. And then you've got, this conglomerate of like 9 to 7 between Van Jefferson, Adrian Peterson, Tyler Higbee, and Randy Bullock. I actually don't mind playing Randy Bullock. I never play kickers. Well, almost never play kickers on tournaments except if the Titans suffer some really, really big identity crisis and just can't get anything done in the red zone because so much of their red zone offense was predicated around Derrick Henry, then I could see them having to settle for a few more field goals. So I don't mind that at all, especially since his ownership's only going to be 15%. Not really going to Matt Gay. He's also projected 7 points. That's just there's no leverage to be had there. He's 24%, and it's just people playing him because their offense is going to score a lot of points. Okay, well, that's the same as every other slate. So no leverage to be had by playing Matt Gay. And then Sony Michel, of course, being projected 5 points. So Adrian Peterson projected 10, Sony Michel projected 5. You give up a lot by going from Adrian Peterson to Sony Michel, but you also gain a lot in terms of ownership. Head over to our custom lineups. We're going to look at Cooper Kupp at captain. So we've got Cooper Kupp, Ryan Tannehill, Daryl Henderson, Adrian Peterson, Jeremy McNichols, Anthony Firsker. This actually was my favorite lineup build with Cooper Kupp at captain, and it comes out as a frequency of 18 in the top. So I guess it's nice to get my priors confirmed. Anthony Firsker, I didn't talk about him much, but he's, I think, 1.6K, and he's $3,000 less than Jeff Swaim. And Swaim has taken a lot of Anthony Firsker's production. Firsker's basically down to like a 30% snap share, but there's not a $3,000 difference between the two. If anything, don't play Swaim or Firsker, but if you're going to play a punt tight end for the Titans, uh, it shouldn't be Swaim. Swaim could come down with another touchdown. That's fine. But the way I look at it right now, I'd rather play Firsker for $3,000 less as a nice punt. And then you've got Ryan Tannehill and Jeremy McNichols providing a ton of leverage. So this is a fantastic example of a lineup that I was actually about to build for you guys here in just a second. A.J. Brown is next at captain with Adrian Peterson, Ryan Tannehill, Cooper Kupp, Jeremy McNichols, and Anthony Firsker. So you can see a trend with Adrian Peterson, McNichols, and Firsker with Ryan Tannehill. And I'm not surprised to see that a lot of Titans 4x2s and 5x1s are popping in these optimals for RunTheSims because they can definitely equal the production of the Ram side, and the ownership is far, far less. And we'll look at one. I'm not playing any McNichols at captain myself, so I won't read that one off. Daryl Henderson at captain is an interesting one. You can't gain much from playing him at captain, but he is an excellent captain play. So Daryl Henderson at captain, Marcus Johnson, Ryan Tannehill, AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, Adrian Peterson. It's another 4x2, and it's got your Rams in it. Last thing, we're going to go ahead and build on DraftKings. So I built a lineup here already to start us off. I like Adrian Peterson and captain quite a bit. And then we've got A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill, Julio Jones, and then we're running it back with Daryl Henderson and Robert Woods. So we discussed Daryl Henderson was actually good leverage in the flex rather than the captain spot this week, oddly enough. And then Robert Woods seems to be fantastic leverage off of Van Jefferson and Cooper Kupp. So you don't have to play Cooper Kupp in every lineup. He's being owned so much that if he just doesn't pay off his egregious price tag, you could end up winning. But we want to try this again with Cooper Kupp just for the sake of example. So we'll leave Adrian Peterson at captain. We definitely want Ryan Tannehill in there. We've got 7,000 left, and that's basically going to make us go, we'll say McNichols, and then 6,000 left. You don't have really many great options here. Higbee's good leverage if you want to go 3x3, and I don't mind that lineup. So Tyler Higbee, Jeremy McNichols, Ryan Tannehill, Daryl Henderson, Cooper Kupp, Adrian Peterson, and I believe you could go up from McNichols here, or down, to Julio Jones, and it still makes sense. So Adrian Peterson at captain, Cooper Kupp, Daryl Henderson, Ryan Tannehill, Julio Jones, Tyler Higbee, and you still leave 1,100 on the table. Last thing I want to talk about is a Tannehill captain. So I want to go Tannehill, and then we're going to go Adrian Peterson and Jeremy McNichols. And then we're probably going to want to go Julio Jones. Let's try AJ Brown first. All right. And then we have 7,150 left. Try Daryl Henderson. Leaves us with 5K. And then you've got Randy Bullock. That leaves 1.3 on the table. So Ryan Tannehill, Jeremy McNichols, Adrian Peterson, AJ Brown, Daryl Henderson, Randy Bullock. And I believe we could swap out A.J. Brown for Julio Jones and get 79, so that leaves Van Jefferson. Beautiful. So Ryan Tannehill, captain, Jeremy McNichols, Adrian Peterson, Julio Jones, Daryl Henderson, and Van Jefferson. So that's going to do it for today. Just remember, you don't have to play Cooper Kupp in every single lineup. His ownership is going to be so incredibly high. We all understand how amazing of a play he is, how amazing of a player he has been so far this season. But when you get to those, I mean, we have him at 53%. I'm thinking he's going to be upwards of 70%, maybe even higher, because we've seen Devontae Adams get that high, right? So we've already seen Devontae Adams reach like the 70 to 80%. And I believe both Showdown slates, Devontae Adams did not pan out at that ownership. So you don't have to bet against Cooper Kupp entirely for him to just not appear in the optimal line, optimal builds. I would say take him out of just a good handful of your builds and make sure that you've got a little bit of leverage over the field. That's going to do it for today. And good luck with your Sunday night showdown. Peace.